Thank you, Lizzie. And is the public here?
I think we're live. Yeah.
We're live. Okay, great. Melanie, can you do roll call?
President Ryring,
Here.
Commissioner Chankrali,
Present.
Commissioner Matoush,
Present.
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the San Mateo County Harbor District meeting of February 16th, 2022. At this time, the board will hear public comments that do not have to do with agenda items. Members of the public have 2 minutes to address the board. And I don't see any hands raised today. Do you see anyone? Does anyone see something I don't?
I agree that there's no hands raised.
Okay. Before we move on to the consent calendar, I have a few things to report out to the public. And Lizzie, are you able to do a screen share?
Can you guys see that?
Yeah. That's
It's
great.
a welcome sight.
So that's a picture of the airport where we used to store the dredge product that's now been removed. The West Trail Living Shoreline project has broken ground, and the rerouting of the drainage coming off the hillside, which was a significant cause of erosion there, is being completed. The clean fill from the launch ramp emergency dredge project a few years back has been removed from its temporary storage area at the airport. And it's now on the site to be used to build the living shoreline and beach. The expected reimbursement fees from FEMA are in excess of $300,000. Is that right, Jim?
Yes, it is. It's fantastic news.
Yeah, really great news. And the West Trail project is on schedule for completion in mid-April. I want to thank the public for being patient with the district as we've had equipment and supplies blocking some parking at the West Trail. And we'll continue to do our best to keep any construction inconveniences to a minimum. I also want to thank John Moran, our Director of Operations, for moving this project along. John, you've done an excellent job in making sure this project has come to fruition, and the district is proud to have you as a member of our team. Thank you, Lizzie, for sharing that photo. The consent calendar is next on the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve, or does anyone wish to pull an item?
President Ryring, this is Jim Pruitt. Before our voting on the consent calendar, I would like to pull items 2 and 7 and bring those back to the board at a later date after corrections are made to those documents.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Move to approve the consent calendar minus items 2 and 7.
and I'll second that, but I do have a comment.
Do you want to make a comment before we vote? Or-
Yeah, so thanks for pulling to Jim, because I was kind of, a little disturbed that the minutes were not accurate, but I'm hoping that we'll have the accurate minutes next month, because it does affect our well, at least a couple of the positions that the board voted on.
It does, and we'll make those corrections.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So we have I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second. Melanie, roll call, please.
Did you take public comment? I'm sorry, President Ryring. Did you take public comment on see if there was public comment first?
for the
I don't see any
consent
hands
items?
raised.
The consent calendar motion.
Is there, someone has their hand raised? No,
I don't see.
no, I don't.
See any hands raised?
No. All right, then Melanie, roll call, please.
Sorry about that, folks. John didn't have the right link. I'm sorry about that. Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Mr. Lorenz. Commissioner Lorenz, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner Chankrali. Commissioner Chankrali,
Aye.
Oh, all right, good. That motion passes, and we're going to move on to the discussion agenda items. Number 8, San Mateo Resource Conservation District Water Quality Update. Mr. Pruitt, would you like to present this item?
I'll start it off and introduce them, but good afternoon, President Ryer and Commissioners. This is the annual presentation and report from the San Mateo County Resource Conservation District. Representing the RCD today is Noah Katz, the Water Quality Program Manager, and Nicole Schmidt, Water Quality Program Coordinator. There is no action being requested. This is an informational presentation only. And Noah, Nicole, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Am I able to share a screen with this link? I just have the public Zoom link.
You've been promoted. You should be able to share.
Okay, I'm just not seeing thank you for promoting me. That's very exciting news. I'm not seeing a button to share my screen.
Yeah, I'm not, Melanie, I think you might need to do the promoting. I don't think I can do that from my end of the webinar. There should be 3 dots kind of in the,
he should be able to share his screen.
Oh, here we go. Join as panelist.
Noah, you don't have that permission?
I think I was able to do it.
Okay.
And Nicole, you should have that too now.
Go. It's up and showing, Noah. Now it's gone. If you're talking, Noah, you're muted.
Noah, can you hear us?
Okay, there we go. Am I unmuted now? Sorry about that.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks Jim, thanks commissioners. Haven't seen many of you in a while. Hope you're all well. Happy to be here today to give you an update on some of the things we've been working on. Yeah, Nicole Schmidt, our new Water Quality Program Coordinator, is here, who I believe most of you are meeting for the first time, and she'll give a quick rundown of the first flush results from this year when I'm finished. So just a quick overview, talk about some of the TMDL deliverables, a rainwater capture project we've been working towards, a signage project I want to talk to you about today, give you an update on our expanded coastside pet waste outreach program, provide a drainage map that you all requested, and then Nicole will take over and talk about the first flush results. And I know many of you know who we are, but just for those of you who do not, the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, special district of the government, we provide confidential, non-regulatory technical assistance, and we work in these 5 main program areas: water, climate, wildlife, agriculture, and fire resilience and forest health. And just to get into some of the deliverables, so these are 2 straight from the TMDL implementation actions for the Harbor District. First one to inspect sewer and stormwater laterals and all other components connecting facilities at the harbor to sanitary sewer system and evaluate effectiveness and proper performance of sewage collection systems, et cetera. And so this map here is a segment of the stormwater lines, which back in 2017 or so, we started a process to inspect and map the entire stormwater system at Pillar Point Harbor. And we, in addition to mapping, figuring out where all that infrastructure is, the contractor also provided a ranking system. So 5, meaning that any pipes rated 5 needed kind of immediate repair or replacement, and those were taken care of then. And then 4 were a rating, meaning that within about 5 years, we should have another look at those. And so about 5 years on now, so we want to have another look at the stormwater lines that received a rating of 4. And I'm not sure if you can see my cursor here, but essentially this segment here, DI1, basically to the outfall down here. And then there's another small section up here we want to have another look at. And then this little section, SAB to unknown, is an odd little segment of pipe that's sort of a dead end. It's basically a hole in the ground, fills with water. We're not entirely sure from where. And there is a flap gate that does allow some water to kind of trickle out into the St. Augustine line. So that is a segment that a little reservoir was emptied in 2017 when we inspected it. And we went and did a little walk a couple of months ago and found that it was filled with water again. So we want to have a contractor drain that and have another look and see what's going on there. And might be an easy solution like fill it in, but we're not sure yet. And then to go to the sewer infrastructure work to comply with the TMDL, the first step in inspecting everything is to figure out where everything is. So similar to the stormwater stuff, our contractor is going to go ahead and stick a camera down on all the sewer lines and make a map. And through that process, also inspect all of the sewer infrastructure in the Harbor District. And that'll allow us to not only see what condition the pipes are in, see what needs repairs, but also really make a plan for inspecting all of the other kind of adjacent infrastructure like dump stations and pump out stations and all that kind of thing. And we hope to do this work this summer. Cost about $10,000 of the already allocated budget, and to minimize disruption to Harbor District operations, our contractor will do that over 2 nights. So does anyone have any questions on this topic before I move on?
Yes, Noah, this is Ed Lorenas.
Ed.
Could you just very quickly for the public say what the TMDL is and who is the responsible agency that's telling us to do this every year, just so folks know?
Sure. So the TMDL, it's an acronym that stands for Total Maximum Daily Load. And the San Francisco Water Quality Control Board is essentially responsible for developing an action plan when a water body is impaired. And the Harbor District and many of the creeks that discharge in the Harbor District were found to have elevated levels of fecal indicator bacteria. And because of those high levels, these water bodies were placed on what's called the Clean Water Act's 303D list. So that Regional Water Quality Control Board created this kind of action plan and prescribed what they call implementation actions for the Harbor District and for many of the adjacent landowners, including the county, El Granado Community Services District, and Venice Beach is also included there. So it's a pretty large, it's a very large drainage area. It's a very large portion of the coast side of San Mateo County, a very large portion of our district, the San Mateo Resource Conservation District. And so there's actually, the timing of this is actually just recently received final approval from the EPA. So there is an implementation plan due in about 3 months. And so that's, yeah, we've been waiting for final approval for that and we finally received it. So that's where we're at now.
Thank you. Very nice summary.
Thanks, Ed. Great. Okay, moving on. So another project we've been working towards is a stormwater capture project. So we worked with the Harbor District and submitted a grant with Department of Water Resources. And it's essentially a water resources project with water quality co-benefits. And basically what the plan is in these 2 large parking lots at Pillar Point Harbor, to put in large tanks and to collect stormwater for reuse, and to provide some filtration as well. It will reduce the amount of contaminated stormwater entering the harbor and further ensure that the harbor is not contributing to water quality impacts here. And the kind of first step after capturing the water will be to put in infrastructure to transport non-potable use, water for non-potable uses, to things like flushing toilets and that kind of thing. And then also as part of this project, we want to include a feasibility analysis to see if it would be possible to include a treatment facility to actually treat that water to potable use standards. So really excited about all of this. There is a kind of a combined area of these two parking lots is about 430,000 square feet. And based on the average rainfall between 2018 and 2020, that would mean we capture around 5 million gallons of rainwater a year from these two parking lots. And based on the 2019-2020 water usage at the Harbor District, at Pillar Point Harbor, that would mean an offset of about 86% of total water use, which is a pretty substantial amount of water. And so it would provide water security benefits and water quality benefits, certainly, and also for additional filtration, want to include some green infrastructure, some like curb cut bioswales and that kind of thing. And that would include also some additional beautification and greening elements. So pretty excited about this. We submitted the grant. The grant was submitted about a month ago, I believe, and we're still waiting to hear back from Department of Water Resources. But I have a really good feeling about this. I think it's going to be fingers crossed, but I think it's going to be a home run. So I know that's a lot of information on that. Can I answer any questions about this project?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Probably way too early to say, but I'm going to ask anyway. One of the biggest contributors to water pollution inside our harbor, aside from just runoff from the beaches, is the outfall at Capistrano in front of the fish trap and brewing company. Do you see any way that those could be incorporated into this plan, maybe? I realize it's not the parking lot, but it's pretty close.
Sure. So I actually had a meeting with Jim the other day, and he expressed similar interest. And so we do want to look into that. There might be a way of, because that is in the stormwater system, there may be a way to essentially connect that part of the stormwater system to these tanks and provide filtration that way. And there's also, there are ways of reducing the amount of stormwater runoff during a rain event in that catchment area of Capistrano through green infrastructure and stormwater management techniques. And maybe there's an additional element for, I haven't looked at the parking lots in that area, but maybe there's potential for another capture project there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's definitely worth considering. It's definitely something that we're going to ask the contractor to look into and see if it's possible to connect these systems.
Great, thanks.
Noah, since Commissioner Lorenz brought up Capistrano outfall, did that signage ever go up?
Yeah, I believe so. There's the blue sign, I believe, was replaced at the Capistrano outfall, and there was an additional one posted at the St. Augustine outfall. And I have a picture of the St. Augustine one in my next slide, or the one after.
Okay, good. Thank you.
President Raring, if I can make a comment,
Of course.
and going to Commissioner Lorenz's comment, Capistrano Beach has 3 separate outfalls onto it. The center outfall strictly covers the parking lot and land of the land opposite our on the other side of the street. So the hotel land and the future land where the RV park is going on. And basically one owner owns all that. So a possible funding source could be from that owner in assisting us with meeting the TMDL requirements. But we have not approached them yet, but we will.
Jim, are you thinking as a public benefit?
They're responsible to control their stormwater, and it's polluted coming into the harbor. So helping us connect it to our system to prevent it from entering the harbor before it gets cleaned in some sort, or at least reduced, would help us meet our TMDL requirements and help them meet their requirements for owning that land.
Another way to frame that would be that the Harbor District would help him meet his responsibility of following the stormwater capture.
Yes. That's the only unique outfall that's really defined where it comes from.
Should I move on or? Sorry,
Yeah,
Ed,
go
you
ahead.
still have your-
No, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So the thing I want to talk to you today is a signage project we've been working on. So heard from a few commissioners interest in some additional signage at the beaches at Pillar Point Harbor. And just so this image on the top right, I'm sure you're all familiar with, is that those signs the county puts up after their weekly water quality sampling has returned data that means that there's an elevated health risk at the beach, right? So it means the beach is closed because of fecal indicator bacteria. And that photograph on the left is actually one that I took on a really nice day when the beach was closed. So when this red sign was up and people are getting lunch to go and eating it on the beach, you see kids playing in the sand. So there's really an elevated health risk. And one of the kind of complaints that have been forwarded to me is that the public is not always aware of these signs. So they're not big enough or loud enough or engaging enough. And they do go up there weekly and then they're taken down when things are better. And then, so this sign on the bottom right, that blue one is one that was relatively recently replaced due to a decent amount of work from the Harbor District, the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability, and myself making lots of phone calls and sending lots of emails and trying to get that taken care of. And I know Chris Tibby worked a lot on that as well. So many thanks to everyone involved. And this sign's been put up. It's really great. It's a permanent sign. It says, the sand and sediment and water here may contain elevated levels of fecal indicator bacteria that may pose a health risk. And it's really great. I think it does a better job maybe of getting people's attention. But one of the kind of downsides of permanent signage is that it doesn't reflect the most recent water quality data. And so we sort of came up with an idea that I'm calling kind of the Blue Weeks signage project, which I hope will take care of some of these issues. The idea is to use a flag system at each of the 5 beaches at Pillar Point Harbor. And there'll be a sign like this, and I have a larger image in my next slide. But essentially we'll describe what the recent week's water quality data looks like at each of the 5 beaches. And I believe we can get those data 2 days after water quality samples are collected. So very, very recent, very current. And I think this will solve a lot of the problems. It will reflect most recent data. It'll tell people when it's safe and when it's not safe, and really great, it'll allow us to celebrate when water quality is good. And I've already spoken a little bit with Chris Tibby about this, and he was very interested in having a metric in his reports that say how many blue weeks we had at each beach. So anyway, this is a kind of just an idea that we've been working towards. And just to show you a larger image of what the kind of the permanent version of the signage will be below the flags, warning that the bacteria is tested weekly, and the flags indicate the current risk. And this is a color scheme that is certainly not finalized, up for discussion, but we didn't want to include any flags that might confuse anyone using a maritime flag system, so no green and no red. And this image on the right is essentially a sample of how the data will be summarized. And on the permanent sign, there'll be a link to a website and the Harbor District's logo and RC's logo. And then so there's really something I want to just kind of flag, make sure that you were aware of, get your kind of initial thoughts, and we would bring this to another board meeting for a vote. This is something that to gauge people's kind of official interest on it. But yeah, this is.
Noah, I want to say this is a really interesting development, and thank you and Chris Tibby and Jim and John, everybody who's been involved with this the last couple of years. We started talking about this 2 years ago, the problem with the water quality at that outfall, and I think this flag system would be really effective.
I know this is something that I think other organizations have considered, including the county, but they're I think mostly due to limited resources. It could be a big pull for the county, for example, to put these at all of the beaches that they look at. But I think there's also some great opportunities to bring in community members who maybe want to, do the flag changes at some point. And I think this could be really inspiring for other organizations who maybe want to take this on down the road if we can show that that really works. So,
No, I have a quick question related to this. One of the challenges with Capistrano is that outfall, because the outfall will run sometimes 10,000 MPN, whereas the water in the harbor might be in the hundreds. So I'm not sure you can do it, but it might be nice to have something to point out that because kids play in that outfall, it looks like a stream.
Yeah. Water
is really contaminated there. So it might be nice to have something that alerts folks of exactly that.
Yeah, completely agree. I know there is one of these blue signs there under the outfall, but I don't know if it's clearly not getting the attention of the kids.
I mean, I know it's a challenge.
This is exactly what we've been talking about the last 2 years. We've had a number of meetings about this, and it really continues to be a problem. And there's a homeless person living right by that outfall, and there's no public toilet there. I mean, this is a critical issue.
Absolutely. I was actually sampling San Pedro Creek on Pacifica a few days after those really big rainstorms we had when the creek was blown out and the channel had migrated, and it just looked completely different. And these surfers asked me what I was doing, and I told them, and they said, "Wait, should we probably not be swimming here?" Saying like, "Yeah, there's a big sign that says the beach is closed, and the water quality is going to be really contaminated right now. But it's your choice. But as long as you know that there's a risk and probably, I said, you should probably wait a couple days after it rains. And I think the sign should include some text to that effect as well, saying even though the flag is blue, if it just rained, you might not want to play around here right now.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And then just an update on our coastside pet waste outreach program. So this is a program that the San Mateo County Resource Conservation District's been working on with the San Mateo County Offices of Sustainability. And for a while, it was really just focused on kind of pretty narrow geographic range. And we've expanded it to include basically the entire stretch between Pacifica all the way down to Half Moon Bay. So that whole stretch of coastside, which is pretty substantial. And the goal is to reduce pet waste entering our coasts and contaminating water quality through outreach and education. And it's a joint project right now with the Harbor District, City of Pacifica, City of Half Moon Bay, and the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability. And just for clarification, I'd just like to mention that this program exists not because pet waste is the single most important source of bacteria on the coast side, but because it is a source that can be targeted through outreach and education. So it's a really great opportunity to just educate people and reduce those sources, and also to do some maybe wider kind of watershed education and teach people more about that kind of land-sea connection, all that kind of thing. And some of the kind of main deliverables will be, we're going to do a big literature review and look at what people have done in other areas. Call other organizations, talk to them, figure out what metrics of success they've used, what's worked for them, what hasn't. Organize a public pet waste management stakeholder group so we can work together and design outreach resources targeted at specific audiences, really work together on that. We'll also work on volunteer pickup events. The RC will table at local events. We'll design and distribute print materials, social media posts, and also work on a big website overhaul where we'll have information about TMDLs and the other contamination issues around bacteria and sampling data, annual reports. So it'll be a really great resource for people to engage in this information and learn about all this, and hopefully to encourage people to change their behavior and do the right thing when it comes to pet waste and other potential contaminants. So yes, big thanks to everyone, all the organizations that are helping with this, to the Harbor District. Nicole Schmidt, our new water quality program coordinator, has started with us back in September. and she'll be coordinating this project. And she has a really, really great communications background, and she can do a lot of the stuff that I'm not so great at. So I'm really excited to have her on board and get this all going. And this is just a map that you all had requested actually the last time I presented to the Harbor District. And I apologize for the delay, but I just wanted to make sure that you have this, and I can send you a copy of this as well. But it's just a map showing the drainage areas. So these different creeks that discharge to Pillar Point Harbor, and then showing the Pillar Point Harbor property boundaries. So just to show that this is a really big system, harbor districts are receiving water, and just to kind of, so you can have that when you need it. And now Nicole Schmidt will take over and talk about the first flush results from this year. And we'll both be around to answer questions at the end of that. Thanks, everyone. Nicole, are you able to speak?
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I've been having some internet issues, but can everyone hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you, Noah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole, and I'll be going over some of the key findings from this year's first flush at the harbor. Next slide, please. So first flush occurs with the first significant rain of the season. When it has not rained for a while, pollutants that have accumulated in the watershed during the dry season get picked up and enter our storm drains, creeks, and oceans during this first rain. And this storm water carries pollutants with it. So the RCD helps recruit volunteers to help collect water samples and field data during the first rain to see what the overall health of our watersheds look like and where there may be areas we need to focus on to improve water quality. So this year we had 24 volunteers help sample 13 different sites. We could not run the first flush program without participation from the community who engage in citizen science and help us collect water samples, field data, and measurements. And here are a couple of photos from this year's first flush. You can see that middle top photo is from the Harbor District. Next slide. I want to take this moment to thank all of our partners and sponsors who make this program possible: the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, Sewer Authority Mid-Coastside, Surfrider Foundation, City of Pacifica, the County of San Mateo Health System, and the San Mateo Harbor District. Next slide. So what pollutants do we test for? Here is an overview of all of the pollutants we look for, their potential causes and sources of the pollutants in our waterways, and some of their ecological impacts. We look for fecal indicator bacteria, specifically E. coli and Enterococcus. We look for two different nutrients, nitrates and orthophosphates. Too much of these nutrients in the environment causes eutrophication, which leads to aquatic organism die-offs. We also look at the presence of metals in the water samples that can impact human health. Another parameter we identify are total suspended solids, which impact the water column visibility and the ability of aquatic organisms to respire. And we also ask volunteers to record physical and chemical properties of the water. Next slide. So here is an overview of all the sites we sampled from this year. We were able to collect water and record field data from 13 out of 14 sites. Now let's zoom in on the harbor. This year we sampled 6 sites in the harbor, most of which are historical sites. We found that Enterococcus, E. coli, orthophosphates, and copper had sites that were above the recommended amount considered safe for swimming. In other words, some or all had concentrations of these pollutants that were above the pollutant threshold. While there were no concerns observed for nitrates, lead, zinc, or total suspended solids at the sites we sampled for this year in the harbor. This is an example of how we analyze each pollutant. This graph shows Enterococcus concentrations in all sites in the 1 to 100 dilution. The y-axis represents Enterococcus concentrations, and the x-axis shows the sites we sampled from north to south. The red line indicates the water quality objective, which is that pollution threshold or the limit of what the concentration should be to be considered safe for swimming. It's kind of hard to see in this graph, but if you look closely at the bottom, that water quality objective is that red line close to the bottom. So any concentration above that red line does not meet the water quality objective. And during this year's first flush, all of the harbor sites exceeded the pollution threshold for Enterococcus. And concentrations of Enterococcus were highest at Surfers South. Next slide, please. We also look at historical data for many of our sites. This graph shows the lead concentrations over time. The y-axis shows the lead concentration and the x-axis shows the year, while each site is indicated by a different color line. And that red dashed line is the water quality objective or that pollution threshold. So take a look at that yellow line. This represents Vassar drainage. You can see pictured on the top left. We noticed that lead concentrations at the drainage had an increase in 2019 and 2020. So we wanted to keep an eye on lead concentrations at this site for this year to see if lead concentrations were going to continue to increase. But this year, lead concentrations at Vassar were within the recommended range and did not exceed the pollution threshold. So we do not see a problem with lead concentrations at this site, but we will continue to keep an eye on it. Next slide. So thank you. That was a brief summary of the water quality results for this year's first flush. So happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Nicole. I see we've had a member of the public with their hand up. Shelley Ingalls, do you have a question or a comment for either Noah or Nicole?
Shelley, I've sent you a request to unmute.
Well, sorry about that. I think something got pushed I didn't expect. I apologize. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Do any commissioners have any comments or questions? No?
Well,
So
I just had to unmute. First question, what was the, excuse me, what was the sampling site at Surfers Beach South?
So where is the sample site?
Yeah.
Yeah, Surfers Beach South.
Right. Where is that?
Nicole, do you remember, can you describe where it is? I can pull it up on another map.
It's
sorry,
it's at Surfers Beach. I'm trying to pull up a map on my computer too, but it's being kind of slow.
you know where that little fence by the outfall is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I guess that's not that far south. Maybe it's what you consider the Surfers Beach outfall rather than the Surfers Beach South.
Right,
outfall.
so it was the outfall. Okay, that makes sense. I was wondering if it was the outfall or by it.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, are you going to do you have any plans for doing this presentation to the Mid-Coast Community Council? Because their meetings later in the day, more people can attend it. I'm sure they'd be interested.
Yeah, Nicole gave the first flush presentation in a much more detailed, longer form to the Mid-Coast Community Council. Was that last week?
Yeah.
So I
think it was last
week. I have no sense of timing anymore with COVID. So it was either a year ago or a week ago.
Yeah, and we do have a few more presentations coming up too that we can send to all of you that do go into more detail about like each pollutant that we look at and then other sites that we look at in Pacifica and Half Moon Bay.
That would be great. And while I have the air, just like to tell you guys thank you. It's great work and really nice presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for
Thank you, Nicole. I'm really encouraged by, especially by your creativity in the signage area. So thank you again.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us. And thanks for putting us on right at the beginning. We appreciate it. And yeah.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, our next agenda item is number 9, public hearing on draft maps of voting district boundaries for a district-based election system following the 2020 census. Mr. Pruitt, this is your item.
Jim, you're muted.
Melanie, if you could put up map A and share your screen, I'd appreciate it. Good afternoon again, President Ryan and Commissioners. As required by California Election Code 22000, the Harbor District is required to review and adopt election districts following each decennial federal census. The last decennial census took place in 2020. To accomplish the required redistricting, the district contracted with a firm, Redistricting Partners, the same firm that assisted the Harbor in defining the original voting districts of San Mateo County Harbor District. On December 15th, 2021, at the regular meeting of the Harbor Board, Redistricting Partners presented to the Harbor Board the results of the 2020 census and how it affected San Mateo County. On January 19th, 2022, at the regular meeting of the Harbor Board, Redistricting Partners presented 4 different maps, including the existing district, that met the requirements of the election code. Of the 4 maps presented, the Harbor Board selected 2 for further consideration at today's regular meeting of the Harbor Board. The 2 maps included map A, which is on the screen now, and map B. Melanie, if you can please put it to map B. There's map B on the screen now. Today it is requested the board consider the 2 maps and select one that represents the voting districts following the 2020 census as required by the election code. The draft resolution under consideration reads as follows. Resolution 2208, a resolution of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners adopting the official district map to establish voting district boundaries for the Board of Harbor Commissioners following the Decennial federal census. Whereas on September 5th, 2018, the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners approved a change from at-large elections to district elections for its 5 harbor commissioners, adopted a map to establish the boundaries for the 5 voting districts, the 2018 official district map, and 3, provided the order for implementing by-district elections by establishing 2020 as the first year of elections for voting districts 1, 4, and 5, and establishing 2022 as the first year of elections for voting districts 2 and 3. And whereas pursuant to California Election Code Section 22000A, after each federal decennial census and using the census as a basis, the district must, by resolution, adjust the boundaries of any voting district so that the voting districts are, as far as practical, equal in population and in compliance with Section 10301 of Title 52 of the United States Code as amended to the extent those provisions apply. And whereas January 19th, 2022 and February 16th, 2022, the Board of Harbor Commissioners held public hearings on the proposal to adjust the boundaries. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Section 1, the map attached hereto as Exhibit A is hereby approved and adopted as the official district map to establish the boundaries of the 5 voting districts of the district and shall replace 2018 official district map as the official district map to be kept on file at the district offices. Section 2, pursuant to California Election Code Section 22000E, the term of office for any harbor commissioner who has been elected and whose term of office has not yet expired shall not be affected by any change in the boundaries of the voting district from which such harbor commissioner was elected. At the first election for a voting district following the adoption of the official district map, a person in the requirements of Section 22000F shall be elected for such voting district under the official district map. The recommended motion is select either one, the map with existing voting district boundaries, or 2, the map entitled Draft Plan A, and approve Resolution 2208 adopting the official district map to establish voting district boundaries for the Board of Harbor Commissioners following the Decennial Federal Census, with the selected map being attached as Exhibit A to the resolution. I'm standing by for questions, and also Redistricting Partners has joined us today's meeting if you have questions for them.
Great, thank you, Jim. And I'll entertain discussion and or a motion on this item.
I have a question.
Commissioner Lorenz?
So Jim, can you or our partners tell us what the difference in the in Plan A is with respect to the current districting? It's pretty subtle, but it might be nice for folks to know what that, a little bit about the details there.
It is very subtle, and it involves District 3 mainly, and the area around the harbor. And if Redistricting Partners, if you can talk to the specifics, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, happy to do it. In fact, I'll see if I can share my screen, and I can show, oh, it won't let me show my screen.
Yeah, Melody, if you can stop sharing.
Okay.
And District 3 is District C, is that correct on that map?
Yep.
Yeah, so
Oh,
we're
here.
using an alphanumeric on this.
Okay.
So A equals 1, B equals 2. This version right here on the screen right now shows the numbered districts. If we go through each individual district, we can see in this version, the black line is the new district boundaries and the colors are the old district boundaries. So there was a little bit of adjustment in the actual census blocks from last redistricting when you did it till today. So there were a couple tiny little adjustments that are microscopic just because of following the new census block boundaries. We see some more significant small pockets of changes in District 2, but largely the same boundaries. District 3, a little bit of cleanup here around, actually that's more kind of around your headquarters, isn't it? So the little bit of cleanup in the boundaries there, in part, again, because of the way the census blocks were drawn. No real changes between districts 4 and 5 in terms of the boundaries, and there's District 5. So really, we're talking extremely small changes. Most of these changes I would characterize as being done in order to meet the new census geographies. And then we made sure that in this version of the plan, that the population is such that the total plan deviation is within that 10% boundary. So that is another criteria that we wanted to make sure that we met in this process. But essentially what you could consider this is a minimum changes plan. That's how we would characterize it. And it makes sense given the fact that this is a plan that has, it's still in its infancy. You adopted this plan. And I'm sure voters are just still getting used to these boundaries. So maybe letting them go for the next decade is a wise choice.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments, or do we have a motion?
I think we have public comment, Nancy. I'd like to hear what public comment.
Oh, let me turn on my panelists. John Olam.
Thank you for allowing me to comment, President During. I'm just wondering what the practical effects of these changes are. So like, and I might have this wrong, but it seems to me like there's at least one district that is not being currently represented, and another district that has multiple representatives in it, and that's under the current setup. I'm just wondering, under the changes, will we be, who would be able to run in 2022 in Plan A versus Plan B? And will the districts that have not had an opportunity to vote on a specific person to represent them have the opportunity to do so now in 2022? Thanks.
I believe that's our only public comment. So commissioners, is anybody ready to make a motion on this item?
So, Paul, would it be possible for us to look at the existing? I just want to see the differences.
Sure.
I mean, I saw it in the packet, but it's the cleanup one
So this is
at map A, right?
this is map A, but the coloring is the existing lines. It's the
Correct.
black boundaries are the new boundaries. So it's essentially the same exact district, you know, your current district plan. Let me see if I can just bring up a current map. I've got a couple here. Let me see which ones these are.
Thanks.
So these are the existing lines, districts 1 through 5. And that's the chain. This is plan A. So, I mean, it is pretty identical to go back and forth. That's plan A, and that's your existing lines.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing the difference.
Like I said, they're microscopic. Like keep your eye right here.
Is
When I
that
switch
the
back and
only
forth,
part? It looks
that-
like it, or does, I'm trying to see if yeah.
If you can drill in like you did earlier, Paul, where you showed we
Yeah.
can see the difference in the line.
Sure.
Like-
So let's go here. If we go down here to look at District 3 here, actually,
What cities are in District 3?
San Mateo, Hillsborough, some of Foster City and Burlingame, and then on this side, it goes across Montera. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
So then in the new version, it's the exact same stuff. It's the exact same boundaries, really. Its only changes are like if I showed, let me see if I can bring up.
You had it on the last map, Paul, that you just had up,
Yeah, I've got A. This is just the cover of A.
like right there. Cause there a
Yeah.
way you can zoom in on the area of the down there where the purple leg is, where the,
Yeah, a
District
little bit
4,
down
but-
there. I can do that for sure.
yeah.
So if you
that
look here,
So that bleed over is the change in the district.
that bleed over is a change in this district, but then you also have these little things that are just changes in the census block geography, you know? And then up here, again, you have some little changes that have to do with the census blocks changing, but it's not like you have a lot of population in an area like this. It's just simply a little change in the way the census blocks are shaped. So your existing lines themselves did not have, well, in 2010, they had really no change. In your current lines, the total plan deviation was really small already. It's within the 10%. So the cleanup in A is really just to adjust to the new census geographies and make sure that they're balanced.
So are you saying that the existing one isn't like that?
So what I'm saying is that the existing lines, technically, your existing lines no longer follow the census geography. And so if we were to say exactly how many people based on the census are in any district, we couldn't tell you under your existing lines because we have to do these splits of census blocks and calculations as to what percentage of a census block is in the district, what percentage is out. So primarily what we did in making version A was simply adjust those boundaries to the new census geography. The state went from having 700,000 census blocks to just 500,000 census blocks. And anywhere on an edge of a district where they collapsed a census block, we need to kind of readjust that boundary. So map A is truly a minimum changes just to make sure that your districts are now resting back on the census geography.
Well, it's my understanding that the original district was within the percentage However, if we're going to try and get a little tiny bit more correct, I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion for A so that we're just slightly more correct than we were, but noting that there was nothing wrong with our original one anyway. It's under 10%.
And I'll second that motion to go with map A.
And just to clarify, President Ryring, if I may, I think that if you adopt map A, the district labels that are A, B, C, D would be labeled as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to make sure it's perfectly clear.
Yeah, so basically it sounds like that the districts would remain the same.
Yeah, and in fact,
Numbered.
after we're done with this, we'll go back to the county and work with the county on making any necessary adjustments. But in reality, they use a parcel geography for the precinct lines. So it's very possible that no precinct lines are actually going to change as a result of this. We'll be changing the geography of the redistricting, making sure it's updated, but you might not have any voters moving districts at all.
Great, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
President Ryring, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Pruitt.
So the recommended motion is to select either map A or B and
Yes.
approve the resolution. So from what sounds like the motion on the table right now is to map A, the board has selected map A and approve resolution 2208, adopting the official district map to establish the voting district boundaries for the Board of Harbor Commissioners following the Decennial Federal Census, with the selected map being as Exhibit A to the resolution.
Correct. Thank you, Jim. And as Commissioner Matoush noted, would it be beneficial to put something at the end of that motion that about our existing maps?
I mean, basically that they're minimal changes,
Yes.
because that's what I seconded, is what
Yeah.
pretty much what Tom said. So I think the minutes should reflect that.
I do too. So we could add that language in, please. Great, thanks. In that case, Melanie, roll call.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. That motion passes. And thank you very much to redistricting partners for joining us today.
Thank
and
you.
for your work on this.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Take care.
Great job as always.
All right, take care, everybody.
We're going to move on to item number 10, California Division of Boating and Waterways, Boating Safety and Enforcement Equipment Grant. Mr. Pruitt.
Good afternoon once again. The district was informed on January 25th, 2022 of a successful application and grant award of $71,748 to be used for dewatering pumps, AIS, Blue Force system, and radios. The requested amount of the grant was $82,785. And when the grant is accepted, the district will be responsible for the funding the difference. If the board approves, district staff will evaluate all boating safety and enforcement equipment needs and make recommendations to the general manager for replacement expenditures utilizing the full grant award. And if President Ryring, if you want me to read the draft resolution, I can.
Yes, please.
Okay. Draft resolution for consideration by the board is resolution number 2203 to accept grant funding from the Division of Boating and Waterways for boating safety and enforcement equipment. Whereas the San Mateo County Harbor District has the authority to provide boating safety and enforcement activities. And whereas the San Mateo County Harbor District has applied for and been granted an amount not to exceed $72,078 via the California Division of Boating and Waterways Boating Safety and Enforcement Equipment Grant. And whereas the San Mateo County Harbor District desires to replace or purchase needed equipment, boating safety and enforcement equipment, and whereas the intent of the equipment replacement purchase is to provide safe boating environment to the public. Be it resolved by the San Mateo County Harbor District that pursuant to subject to all terms and provisions of the Boating Safety and Enforcement Equipment Grant, acceptance of the grant funds is authorized by the San Mateo County Board of Harbor Commissioners, and be it further resolved that the General Manager, James Pruitt, of said San Mateo County Harbor District is hereby authorized to execute the grant agreement and direct staff in the purchase of necessary boating safety and enforcement equipment using the grant amount of $71,748. The recommended motion is that the commission approve a motion to authorize acceptance and execution of a California Division of Boating and Waterways Boating Safety and Enforcement Equipment Grant of $71,748 and adopt Resolution 2203. Pending any questions, that's my staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt, and congratulations on this grant. Is there any discussion or do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the resolution. I'm just not going to reread the entire thing back into the minutes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I don't see any public comment. Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Chang Cry,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you so much for your work on this, Mr. Pruitt, and whoever assisted you in this grant application. Item number 11, commercial activity permits for visiting fishing vessels. And Mr. Pruitt, this is your item.
This item concerns the requirement for visiting fishing vessels to obtain a commercial activity permit to conduct fishing operations, including offloading catch in Pillar Point Harbor. Under the San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code, a commercial fishing vessel requires a commercial activity permit from the Harbor District to conduct any commercial fishing operations in the harbor. We're discussing commercial fishing vessels. We're not talking commercial passenger vessels or head boats as they're known. Melanie, if you could just put up the current ordinance. Currently, Ordinance Code Section 5101C provides vessels within the harbor or marinas of the district shall not be used for any commercial purposes unless a permit is first obtained from the district. In the case of a commercial fishing vessel, the payment of berthing fees to the district and appropriate fishing permit fees to the state of California or U.S. government constitute permission to conduct commercial fishing operations, excluding any wholesale buying or retail selling of fish on premises, which requires a commercial activity permit issued by the district. The phrase payment of berthing fees under this ordinance requires visiting fishing vessels that do not pay a berthing fee to acquire commercial activity permit prior to offloading or conducting any commercial fishing activity. The Harbor District has historically not enforced this ordinance code. At the December meeting of the Board of Harbor Commissioners, staff was directed to bring back a proposed amendment to the ordinance code to remove the requirement for visiting commercial fishing vessels to obtain a commercial activity permit for commercial fishing operations. On January 19th meeting, the board reviewed the proposed amendment and directed staff to propose further revisions to remove the requirement and bring it back to the board for consideration today at today's meeting. The recommended revision after consultation with General Counsel reads, and that's down on the bottom, you'll see the proposed amendment on your screens. Vessels within the harbor or marinas of the district shall not be used for any commercial purposes unless a permit is first obtained from the district. In the case of a commercial fishing vessel, the district shall not require a commercial activity permit to conduct commercial fishing operations, excluding any wholesale buying or retail selling of fish on premises, for which the district shall require a commercial activity permit. Recommended motion: direct staff to publish notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days. A proposed amendment to section 5101 of Ordinance Code to remove the requirement for commercial fishing vessels to obtain a commercial activity permit to conduct commercial fishing operations, exclude wholesale buying or retail selling of fish, to be considered at the March 16th, 2022 District Board meeting. Pending questions, that's my staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt. Any questions?
Move to accept the proposed amendment.
I will second that, but also I just want to make sure that this is, that we're not, this is gonna be final. I mean, this is probably the third time this has been brought up on an agenda, and we've had multiple meetings on this for months in the latter part of 2020, actually probably the second half of 2021, so over a 6-month period. Jim, just a quick question. I just want to make sure that we're eliminating this basically because we haven't enforced it. Is that the main reason?
My understanding, Commissioner Corrali, was that when we brought this to the board as an issue, the board voiced a concern, and so did the public, that we were charging vessels a commercial activity permit to come in and offload their catch to the tenant fish buyers, who also have to pay an offload fee in their leases. So
Well, no, I remember that discussion.
and the fact that we never enforced it in the past is just a note, but it's not the driving force on why we're eliminating, is my understanding. It's strictly that we want to encourage more boats to come in and offload their catch here versus pushing them away.
Yeah, and they're doing business with our tenants as well.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second on this.
Any discussion? If not, Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke. You're muted, Commissioner Zemke.
Sorry about that. Aye.
Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 12, implementation of a wharfage fee amendment of San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code 3.05.160. Mr. Pruitt.
12 concerns wharfage fees. This item concerns potential wharfage fees for wholesale offloads not offloaded by the leasee fish buyers. San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code Section 310.101 or 010 states the district shall establish rates and fees for the use of facilities of the district. In addition, Ordinance Code 310.160 states vessels loading or unloading merchandise at the district facilities shall pay prescribed fees at the time of discharging or loading. Commercial fishers, when offloading their catch, use the district's floating docks, ramps, Johnson Pier, parking lots. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that a fee be imposed on commercial fishing vessels using district facilities to load or unload seafood in accordance with San Mateo County Harbor District Ordinance Code Section 310.010 and 310.160. The proposed wharfage fee would not be applicable to commercial fishing vessels offloading to a harbor district leasee fish buyers, as the wharfage fee is controlled by the lease. Of note, commercial fishing vessels pay berthing fees to the district for a revocable license to utilize a slip at Pillar Point. For example, a 35-foot fishing vessel pays a monthly fee of $364 and an annual, which equals an annual fee of $4,368. However, commercial fishing vessels, if they have a 12-month lease or license with the district, they only pay $309 a month for a total annual fee of $3,712, which represents a $655 discount for a commercial fishing vessel of 35 feet in length. Also, the fees, depending on the wharfage fee, if the district elects to impose, if any, if the district imposed a fee of half a penny or 0.005 of 1.5 crab would result in the district receiving 0.0075 cents or dollars for that crab. And then for a 15-pound fish, the district would, or 15-pound salmon, the district would receive about 7.5 cents. And then for 2,000 pounds of salmon, district would receive about $10. If the district were to implement a 25-cent per pound fee, a crab that weighs an average weight of 1.5 pounds, the district would receive 37.5 cents per crab. For 15-pound salmon, $3.75 per salmon, and $500 for 2,000 pounds. And the staff report has examples of several different potential wharfage fee amounts. As a comparison for fiscal year 2021, the district collected the following from the leasing fish buyers in offload fees. For wet fish, which is the district receives $5 a ton, the district collected $6,671. For finfish and crab, the district charges 0.005 for wet fish and crab, and we received in payment $5,119.25 in wharfage or offload fees for a total of $11,790. Draft resolution is presented to the board for consideration to impose the wharfage fee on seafood loaded onto a vessel or loaded off a vessel. The fee would be imposed for each vessel using district facilities to load or unload seafood, except those vessels that offload or unload through the leasing fish buyers, or a vessel selling seafood directly to retail consumers pursuant to a commercial activity permit. Staff is also recommending an ordinance change to code 310-160 regarding wharfage fees. Staff is recommending the words "at the time of discharging or loading" be deleted to allow the harbor master to develop a realistic timeline for collecting the wharfage fees. Requiring the fees to be paid at the time of discharge or loading places a heavy burden on the harbor master that he or she may not be able to meet depending on the season and staffing. Currently, Ordinance Code 310-160 reads, "Vessels loading or unloading merchandise at district facilities shall pay a prescribed fees at the time of discharging or loading." Staff is recommending that the ordinance be changed to read, "Vessels loading or unloading merchandise at the district facilities shall pay prescribed fees," deleting the words "at the time of discharging or loading." The draft resolution being presented to the board for consideration is resolution number 2202, a resolution of the San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners to establish a wharfage fee, whereas the California Harbor and Navigation Code 6079 provides that the board shall by ordinance fix the rate of wharfage charges and other charges which are appropriate for the use of any facilities owned or constructed or services furnished or provided by the district. Whereas the San Mateo County Ordinance Code section 310-160 provides vessels loading or unload merchandise at district facilities shall pay prescribed fees at the time of discharging or loading. San Mateo County Ordinance Code section 310-1010 provides the district shall establish rates and fees for the use of the facilities of district and services performed by the district. The schedule of rates and fees shall be adopted by resolution of the Board of Harbor Commissioners. It shall be the responsibility of the employees of the district or their agents to collect said fees and charges. And whereas the district desires to establish a wharfage fee, now therefore it be resolved that the San Mateo County Harbor District, effective March 1st, 2022, the district shall charge a wharfage fee in the amount of, and it's blank until filled in, per pound of gross weight of finfish and shellfish be loaded onto or loaded off a vessel. The fee would be imposed for each vessel using district facilities to load or unload seafood except those vessels that offload or onload through a leasing fish buyer or a vessel selling seafood directly to the retail customer pursuant to commercial activity permit. The general manager is hereby directed to revise the schedule of rates and fees to carry out the purposes of this resolution. The recommended motion: adopt resolution number 2202, a resolution of the Board of the San Mateo County Harbor District to establish a wharfage fee, and further direct staff to publish notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days, a proposed amendment to Ordinance Code Section 310-160 to be considered at the March 16th meeting, 2022 board meeting. And one other thing is, this morning, the district did receive a letter from Fishers. It's unsigned. It's a letter to the harbor commissioners, which that letter has been provided to each commissioner for consideration, and it's also posted on the district's website. That's the end of my staff report, pending any questions.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Chankrali, your hand is up.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for the report. There's been so much back and forth on this issue and the last one and the next topic for the last few months. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So this wharfage fee, so we have the 3 wholesale fish buyers at the end of the pier, correct?
Correct.
So are you saying that we're allowing other wholesale activities outside of the 3 wholesale fish buyers as well with this wharfage fee?
At earlier board decisions, third-party fish buyers were not, the board voted to not allow those or issue commercial activity permits to those. So this would apply only to the offloads conducted by the fishermen themselves to their vehicles.
Okay, so maybe I missed something, but maybe some of that should go into the resolution from the past decision, so that there's some evolution that we can see that's led us to this, number one. Number two, if you look at the actual resolution 2202, we need to change the name of my name to President Ryering's name, right? And not to get ahead of ourselves, but unless I missed something, this exact same resolution is the same resolution for item number 13. So it's a little confusing. I know that this resolution that we're now discussing is for item 12, but from what I can see, and maybe there's something wrong with, I'm not pulling it up, or pulling up the correct version, but it's the same resolution for item 13, at least based on the agenda I have seen. But I just want to make it very clear that 2202 is for item 12.
For item 2202 concerns the wharfage fee.
Correct,
for-
item 12.
For offloads and onloads, which is
Correct.
item 12.
Correct.
And
But
that's
if you,
2202. Item 13 is resolution 2207.
I know,
And
but I'm
that only
looking.
concerns the fee to user fee to use the public.
No, I
works.
understand, but if I click on the actual resolution link, it goes, it's the same, at least the one I'm seeing right now, which is from the website. It's the same resolution 2202. That's for item 12.
Okay, we'll get that corrected on the
Well,
website.
It isn't for me though. When I click on the resolution, it's different and it's 2207 for.
right. And so I don't know what happened, but both of these, this same resolution for my copy, which is from the website, is the one for item 12, and both should have President Ryering's name on it. So getting back to item 12, hold on, I'm pulling this up.
That's really funny because mine does have my name and it does. That's odd. How, if you're clicking on mine, how can she be seeing something different than we are? How can the link be different?
I don't know. I mean, all I know is that I'm looking at the public website, which is where
Yeah,
I
me
pulled
too.
off my agenda.
Yeah, me too.
And item 13 for resolution the attachment is resolution number 2202, which is the same one that we're voting on for item 12. So I just want to make sure that we're voting on the right resolution for the right agenda item.
Is anybody else, are the other commissioners able to pull that up online? And which version do you guys see? Because I do see 2207 and the resolution is correct and it has my name on it. And that's online.
Am I the only one seeing what I'm seeing? Because I swear to God, I see, that's what I'm seeing. On item 13, it's got
Item 13,
2202.
Pull up the resolution at the bottom of the agenda item.
Yeah, I am seeing the correct
Okay,
2202.
okay.
And I'm not, I'm seeing,
Are you seeing what I'm seeing, Ed?
How interesting. And I think.
well, because I'm going off of the emailed agenda.
Oh, okay.
Not the
I'm
rest.
not, I'm just online.
Yeah, I went online as well.
The online agenda, I just double checked it, have different, have the correct resolutions attached.
Okay, so there's the trouble. When the agenda went out, there were some
Hiccups.
hiccups that have been corrected. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. Commissioner Crowley, you
I
had more
think-
comments or questions?
Yes, so the resolution, okay, hold on, let me go back to the correct resolution for item 12. Which actually we should probably have the agenda item numbers at the top of each staff report. Okay, hold on.
We can implement that.
Yeah, it'll just make it easier. Sorry, I'm trying to get to.
You are correct, President or Commissioner Corrali. The one that was sent, the agenda that was sent out on Friday had the incorrect
Resolution for the wrong.
It had the
was
wrong names
The
on
wrong
the resolution,
resolution to the
but the
wrong
res-
agenda item.
but the resolutions were correct.
Well, I didn't get 2207. I only have 2202.
Okay.
Because 2207 was not on agenda item 13. 2202 was based on the version I'm seeing.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Okay, so we can investigate this more after the meeting.
The
Yeah,
agenda item for item 12 that we're discussing right now
Yeah,
is 2202, and it's attached to the agenda and reads, I can read that again for you and the public if you'd like.
well, I'm just trying to make sure that we're capturing the previous decisions that we made, because it sounds like I said, we're going around in circles with the same issue, but it just, so for this resolution, are we looking at, well, I just want it to reflect that we're not getting new wholesalers, is I guess is my confusion here.
You're correct. The wharfage, the way I looked at this and the way I drafted it for the board's consideration is the wharfage fee is separate and distinct through the issue of third-party commercial buyers. The board's decision to not issue commercial activity permits and basically prohibit third-party commercial buyers to operate on Pillar Point Harbor is separate and distinct from the decision to issue or consider a wharfage fee.
Right. So where is that in this language in the resolution that has that intent captured?
Board action last month prohibited the issuance of commercial activity permits to third-party buyers. So they're not allowed to operate on Pillar Point Harbor. This one is separate and distinct from any commercial activity permit or third-party buyer and imposes a wharfage fee.
Right. So
Which
do you think
they're
that that,
two unrelated issues. So I did not mention a former decision in this resolution because this resolution addresses the one issue.
okay, then, so then what, so the wharfage fee would be for what then, if you're looking at this separately? I mean,
The
how,
wharfage fee under current rules as decided by the board would apply to fishermen who self-unload.
who self-unload, right, to their own vehicles,
Correct.
but they can be wholesalers, right?
If they have a wholesale company, yes. They have to unload it to themselves.
And not to like the white van.
Because that's prohibited.
Okay. Okay, Nancy, I'm gonna lower my hand. I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding all of this. So
If
And we
that's
have-
sometime
we
in the
have-
future, Johnson Pier, which will get improvements, the board may consider, because the prohibition of the third-party fish buyers is based on safety. Once the pier has been remodeled and expanded, that safety concern may go away and the board may decide to allow third-party buyers. If they do, this would apply to them, but under the current rules, it does not.
right, that's sometime in the future. But I mean, anyway, so I'm Nancy, I mean, I think we have public comment, so I'm just gonna listen right now.
Great. Barry Day. You are
Am I unmuted now?
great.
You got you, Barry.
Yeah, just a point, from a fisherman, as you know, we do at times have issues like this year where the suppliers can't handle the volume of fish coming in, like salmon. We only really had one person operating with salmon apart from Phil Bruno, who's out there, and that was Larry that took salmon this year. And we did have a couple of gluts. So the reality is this: if we do get a glut this year with salmon, all right, and we have to, because we've got to sell our fish, if we have to deal with a third party person, what that means is we'll have to, unless, the third party person like Phil can get the hoists available at the end of the dock and pay the fees there, which is cool. But, if I come in at 2:00 in the morning and everything's closed and there's a supplier that'll take them, that'll mean I'll take them up the dock, I'll put them in the back of the truck, and I won't be able to put them in the back of his truck. I'll have to go to another truck. That's the reality, outside the perimeters to obey the law. And I heard what Jim said, which is pretty relative. If there are going to be fees imposed on that to make it reflective of no hoists being used and, a lot of arm work being done, just to abide by whatever comes across here. I just wanted to give you that point to consider too. That's all.
Thank you. Sherry Ingalls, you have a comment?
Yeah, I thank you very much. I really don't have a horse in this race, but I do appreciate the harbor I believe is trying to protect the actual tenants of this harbor. And my question would be, I understand staff may not have the time to be able to collect the fee at the time of offloading on people that are not tenants, but I didn't hear anything in the proposal saying how long before that will be collected and what penalty there would be if that person did not pay the fee that they were required to pay. So let's say if there was someone coming to offload into our harbor that was not a tenant of the harbor, did not have a berth of the harbor, and the harbor was not able to have a staff member available at that time to collect, how many days would that individual have to be able to pay the harbor? And if they did not pay with that time, would they be restricted from coming to our harbor in the future and not allowed to offload? Again, to protect the commercial fishermen that are abiding by the rules.
Thank you. Virginia Sue.
Do you hear me now?
You don't look like Virginia, but yes.
No, I don't. It's my wife's computer. Regarding the wharfage fees, I mean, this pier is getting to be 60 years old, and we've never charged wharfage fees for unloading your own catch. A number of issues, but just, I realize the Harbor District board of directors and so on has a lot of tasks to do, and they're not always knowledgeable on all the ins and outs of commercial fishery. Obviously, no one can know everything. So thank you for the opportunity to present some views of how things work at the harbor. A lot of times, fishermen, because of various fishing seasons, salmon season has a lot of closures and stuff, we fish for other fish that just plain aren't that marketable, say rock crabs, say boccaccio rockfish, or things like that, that don't have traditional big markets and stuff. So fishermen, entrepreneurs take their catch to small local markets with proper paperwork, fishing game, receiver's license, wholesale license, what have you. And they just, they make a living doing it. And your actions directly affect people's ability to make a living. So please consider that in your decisions on what to charge. As an example, say we fish for rock crab because Dungeness is closed, salmon's closed. We may get $2 a pound at a buyer, and it's just not that much money. And to charge 25 cents a pound for essentially no value added to us, no help. People watch us, drag stuff with hand trucks and put in our trucks and then drive it someplace. I don't understand why these fees would be put on fishermen at a 50 times rate over what the other buyers pay for the offloading fees. That's my main point, I guess. And see, I'm rapidly running out of time, but I don't think this is necessary. I propose that the fee is zero, or at a fee, 0.5 cents a pound, like the other buyers pay. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no name, but a phone number ending in 513 for a public comment.
Zero 0513, I have sent you a request to unmute. I believe it's *6.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Sure.
Ooh. Okay. Hello.
Hello. You have me?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, this is Bob Berry. I'd like to point out a few things. This fee is actually just a small part of the problem. It's not a huge fee. I think it was 25 to 50 cents per 100 pounds. There's not a lot of people that are going to be offloading fish in huge quantities. So you're talking about a ton of paperwork that somehow we're going to have to organize. And I think it would also have to be supervised by your employees. Otherwise, people are going to get through with not paying the exact fees they're required to pay, and it wouldn't be fair to the rest of us. I'm going to ask a couple of questions that I think would point some things out that are problems with this. Would this fee only apply to people that purchase a resale permit? What about fish taken home for personal use? It wouldn't be right to charge those who paid for the resale permit to also be charged for fish for their personal use, unless you charge every fish that crosses the dock the same fee. This isn't going to be very good for the party boats or the sport fishermen because they're going to have to pay the same fee. if you decide not to charge for personal use, how would you tell the difference between the fish that are being consumed and those that are being sold? I can't imagine the amount of paperwork that would be required for this. And there's no way you can go on the honor system because there's a few people that aren't honorable in our harbor. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of money generated by this, but you're going to generate a ton of paperwork. And every time you put another job on us, it's less time that we have to actually fish and try and make some of our money. I'd also like to know what happens with the fish that are frozen and taken home or taken to cold storage and then brought back. Do you charge the fee when they leave and then return it when they come back? Or do you charge them double when they come back? You charge them another fee to use the dock to bring it down and then charge them the extra 2.5% on top of that. There's just so many problems with this issue right now. If you don't just drop it, I think you should at least have another workshop where we can try and figure out what type of paperwork's involved and the possibility of what amount of money would you even charge and how much would that generate versus what it would cost us to implement this. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. I think there's a problem with our timer too, Lizzie. Can you kind of look into that, please? We have one more member of the public, Sam Sigway. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I just basically want to remind you guys that back in 2019, San Mateo County came with $100,000 taxes and all your fees that you're trying to put on independent fishermen. 90% of your harbor is independent fishermen that do not make more than $100,000. So everybody's come up with your tax on a fee.
I'm really sorry that connection dropped completely, it looks like. So commissioner discussion.
I just talked to Tom, so he did get disconnected. He is trying to get back on the call.
Thank you, Lizzie. Or Melanie, is that Melanie? Yeah, Commissioner Chancarelli.
So Jim, based on my earlier thoughts, I wanted to, I'm, happy with the motion, but I want to capture the previous things that we voted on just so that it's less confusing to everybody who reads the resolution and what we have to implement. So do you have that? And were you able to write any of that down? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I was listening to your comments, and the one comment or the one thing you're asking us to put in there is that during the January board meeting, actually during the December 16th, I think December 16th, 2021 board meeting, the board voted to eliminate commercial activity permits for third-party fish buyers or non-leasing fish buyers. Again, I think it's unrelated to the wharfage fee. So putting
Well,
it
I don't
in
know how it's unrelated, because I guess it goes back to the other question that I asked. What would the wharfage fee go to? I mean, well, I think you answered that. What the wharfage fee would go towards.
We can put in a whereas on this at the December 16th board meeting 2021, the board voted to eliminate commercial activity permits for non-leasing fish buyers. Just my opinion is that it's kind of out of place in this because it's not related to the wharfage fee because they can't do business here.
I don't know
I
if
can put, if the board wants me to, I
Yeah.
can put that whereas in.
Yeah,
Well, I just don't want it to be confusing. I've heard from members of the public today that we need to have another public meet. We've had, how many study sessions have we had? A lot on all of these issues. And so, I mean, we have to make a decision right now because things are being put on hold. There's a lot of confusion. And if we don't make decisions soon, I think it's just going to continue on and then nothing's going to be done. Right. And so, I mean, maybe it's just not as clear to me because I've, kind of been involved with this a little longer because this kind of has spanned through my presidency as well. Right. But this whole, I guess, like I get that the commercial activity permit is not necessarily related, but I just don't want there to be confusion on what the wharfage fee is supposed to be, well, why we even have it, right? And I'm not trying to like be protectionist, but we do have these tenants, and I think Sherry Ingalls brought that up too, that they are paying a lot of money. No one's trying to, I don't believe, at least I'm not trying to impact negatively someone's livelihood. But at the same time, it's like, we have staff in our harbor crew who, have to maintain this and, et cetera. And I think you put up the, how much it's costing us and how much we're leaving on the table. And, I think that there's a balance in there that we can come up with, but I just want to make sure that this wharfage fee, what it's going to, is very clear. That's my concern, just because I've been so involved over the past few months and even sat in some of the study sessions about, these issues. And it's not just one issue. It seems like all of these issues are being combined together. And so, and in some ways they are related to each other. So I just want to make sure that things are very clear. That's all, Jim. I mean, I'm not trying to be complicated or
Okay, let's
difficult.
move on and see if some of the other commissioners have comments. I don't know if those are concerns that the rest of the board shares. I did hear some interesting questions from the public that we as commissioners can't respond to, but Jim, maybe you can talk a little bit if there's some confusion among the commissioners about, are these fees perhaps better recaptured in dock fees? The enforcement and paperwork does strike me as being very onerous. What are your thoughts on that, Jim?
If the board votes to have the wharfage fees, it's my intent to work with the harbor master and possibly get together with several fishermen to discuss how to enforce this via the honor system or otherwise to enforce it. But I do think it's possible and realistic to be able to enforce this with the current staff that we have. And it's not going to be as burdensome as people think. It does not apply to fishermen taking fishermen or catch home for personal use. It only accounts for the commercial offload. And taking fish off a commercial fishing vessel home to the captain's house for dinner is not a commercial offload. And the same thing for the passenger vessels and fishing charters. That's not covered by this as a wholesale offload because they're not doing it as wholesale. They're bringing it off the boat for personal use. So it wouldn't apply to them either. It strictly applies to commercial fishing vessels doing wholesale offloads, not to the sea fish buyers at the end of the pier. Now, the issue in which Commissioner Crawley, I understand for clarity purposes, she wants to add a sentence into the resolution concerning the hoist, but the hoist is issues.
No,
are
not the
completely,
hoist.
No, the
The
captain.
or not the, sorry, you're right. But it seems to be that we limited third-party buyers, but that doesn't seem to be related to this. But again, if the board wants me to put that in there, I can put another whereas into the resolution to cover that issue.
I haven't heard from any other commissioners yet that that's a concern for them, but her concern is noted. And if somebody else wants to bring up a similar concern, that would be great, or not. The the recommended motion doesn't have a fee attached to it, but I noted that for the public hoist motion, there was a range of fees, and they were tied to staff time, our costs at the Harbor District. And that's kind of the one question that I had for this item is how much staff time will this take and what kind of a fee, are other harbors charging, where fishing fleets go out of, and what is a range in which we'll be covering our expense for collecting this fee?
That is unknown on what is our expense for collecting the fee at this time. We'd have to run the program, and we can run the program under a test period time and reconsider it in 6 months or 12 months. What do other periods, or what do other ports charge? The closest port that's similar to us, Monterey, charges for trawler catch $7.14 per $7.14 per ton. And for the salmon and the crab caught by pots or line or otherwise, they charge 0.024 per pound.
Okay. I thank you, Jim. I do see that Sam Seaway has his hand raised again, and we'll try this call again. Sorry we dropped you earlier.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We got you, Sam.
I do apologize for the service. Like I don't know how much of that comment that you guys have caught. We've stated before that some of us, like me, are a multi-fish business. I buy, I sell, and I did want to reiterate that back in 2019, San Mateo County considered anything under $110,000 low income. Your harbor is filled with low income fishermen who are barely scraping by, who are literally fishing 90% of the time just to get their bills to the harbor paid. So I had heard a comment about how you guys are not trying to directly affect but you are. And you're not listening to the fishermen who are telling you that you are. These fees are going to hurt the small independent fishermen like myself, who double sometimes as a buyer. I pay for a slip in that harbor. I should be able to buy fish from that harbor. I've been in that harbor doing this for many years and still can barely make ends meet and have not made over $110,000 a year. So I want you guys just to remember that each fee that you guys, or I should say each tax that you guys claim as a fee is directly hurting the small fishermen, not the guys at the end of the pier, but the guys who unfortunately don't have the option to rent a building down at the end of the pier. Thank you.
All right. I did appreciate Jim's idea about running this for a 6-month trial period. If we're going to end up having a motion on this, Commissioner Mateo, I see your hand raised.
Okay. Yeah, I'd support running this as a 6-month experimental program. And what I'm going to put forward is a 2.5%. It's going to give us a way to start looking at the enforceability of the productivity and so on. So I'd like to move ahead and fill in the last blank at 2.5%.
Do you want to put in or capture the previous language that we've voted on before to add into this? Just for clarity's sake. That's all I'm asking for, is just clarity.
Commissioner Matoush, also, it needs to be a price per pound and not a percentage, because we don't know what their sale is. And sometimes they'll take the fish and put it into personal storage, our freezers and then bring it back. So it's got to be, for the wharfage fee, has to be a per pound charge versus a percentage. And like I said, Monterey charges 0.024 dollars per pound. And the fishers right there, the leasee fish buyers are paying 0.005 per pound for your consideration.
How about 25 cents per 100 pounds? That comes out to the 0.25. Did you mention that?
25 cents per 100 pounds.
Is that the 0.25?
I mentioned I have it for 0.1, 0.005, 0.1, 0.5, 10, 15, 20, 25 cents, 30 cents, and 35 cents.
Well, wait, can I just ask a
Per
question?
pound or per 100 pounds?
Per pound.
So can I ask a question? I understand that.
Commissioner Chin-Crowley, I think Tom is in the middle of trying to craft his motion, and I'd like him to be able to finish that before we proceed. So Tom, you had suggested 2.5%. Is that right? And we need a price per pound.
I think we're getting close here. When you were saying 0.24 in Monterey, how can we get something? Is that per pound, per 100 pound, per dollar value?
That's per pound.
That's per pound. So we could say 0.25 is the closest that we have on this chart available in our board packet today that has the fees scheduled out.
Okay, so
For instance, for a fee for a 1.5 pound crab, if our price per pound were 0.25, it would be 37.5 cents per crab.
Per crab or per pound?
If our price per pound is 0.25, the fee for a 1.5 pound crab would be 37.5 cents.
So I understand that.
There's a chart on page 2 of 3 in the board packet if you want to look at the price per pound and what those fees actually end up being.
Right, I've seen that. Can I ask a quick question of Jim?
Yes.
So Jim, I know that the fish buyers pay, how much do they pay? 0.001, how much do they pay? 0.1?
0.005 or half a cent per pound.
Okay, but they're also paying rent, right?
Yes.
So do we have, I mean, I don't know. I don't, we're not measuring, or I just don't know how much they're paying in general, but on top, they're paying 0.005 cents per pound on top of what they're paying monthly in rent, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that we have to keep that in mind when we compare what we're going to be charging in terms of a wharfage fee. Because the cost of doing business for our tenants is more than 0.005 cents per pound. So I want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples as we, figure out how much we're going to charge for a wharfage fee. Because it's not just going to be vis-a-vis 0.005 cents per pound.
Yeah, that's what the Commissioner Corrali, that all the boats we're talking about pay a monthly slip fee as well. So they also pay rent. To
right. So how much is that? And I mean, without going into details of all of the fish buyers' rents or whatever, I understand that, Tom, but I can't imagine that it's more than what the fish buyers are paying.
Now you're going apples against oranges, because one is renting this area and has a business strictly for unloading. The other is a fisherman who has a slip.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, the business models are completely different.
I understand that, but if we're looking at cost, I'm looking at total cost.
So Jim, or Commissioner Mateusz, do you have an idea of how you want to translate your percentage idea into a price per pound?
Well, I was just gonna try and get a clarification on that 0.24 that you were saying was in Monterey. Is that like 24 cents a pound, or how does that work?
You recommended 25 cents per hundred, and if we do that, it'd be 25 cents. If we do 25 cents per pound, that would be 37.5 cents for every average crab of 1.5 pounds. It would be $3.75 for a 15-pound salmon or fish, and then the fee for 2,000 pounds would be $500.
Yeah, I think the 25 cents per pound is too much.
15 cents a pound would be 22.5 cents for a 1.5 pound crab, $2.25 for a 15-pound salmon, and $300 for 2,000 pounds.
I'm gonna revise it and say, let's do a 6-month test case on 15 cents.
Did you want to know what 5 cents would be?
No, I'm good with 15 right now.
Okay, so in this motion would be for a 6-month trial period of these wharfage fees. Do I have a second?
Well, I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Zemke. Any other discussion? Commissioner
Nancy, we have a public comment.
I think we've already had a public comment from this number, 0513. You're unmuted.
Hi, hello. You guys are figuring the fee completely wrong. The wholesalers at the end of the pier are paying 0.005 cents per pound, and you're going to charge us 15 cents per pound. The guys in Monterey were paying 33 cents, or I'm sorry, 0.003 cents per pound. You are far, far overcharging us, and it's just not fair. You guys don't understand what you're doing, but you want to vote on this because it's already been on the agenda. And you're hurting our businesses, and we are your tenants. We are not outside buyers that are coming in. We are your tenants that have already paid for a sales permit. We're paying you 2.5% off the top for the sales that we do at the dock. And if we take fish home to sell, one guy was talking about how he takes 30 or 40 pounds at a time. And the 30 or 40 pounds times 0.005 is going to be less than a quarter. I mean, it's not much at all. 100 pounds is a quarter. I don't understand your math and what you're wanting to do to us and just rushing it through. You're wrong in doing that, and I'd ask you to stop and reconsider.
Well, in light of that, I would revise it from 15 to 10 and go with the 6-month trial program.
Okay, so let's see, so we have a new motion on the table. Tricia, can we entertain it without any fuss?
A revision?
Yes.
Okay, so he's made an amendment to his motion, and Commissioner Zemke, you seconded the original motion. Do you second this motion?
Well, I guess I just have a question first, and maybe to toss it back to Mr. Pruitt, if how confident he is that we're getting a correct picture on what his data shows for what Monterey's doing.
Monterey's is pulled right off their port service fee sheet that I looked at, and it's 0.024 per pound for fish that's caught in traps, rod and reel, or otherwise, but fish that's caught in mass production, such as a trawler, that is 7.0 $7.14 ton or $7.14 a ton.
A ton, okay, so it's basically it's 2.5 cents for the first one. That would
Yes.
be, that would be comparable to the 15 cents that we're considered charging here.
Well, Tom's made that 10 cents. And so,
10 cents, right, okay.
yeah, and I just, I don't know. I mean, I would go with the 15 cents, but
Okay, well, I'll support Tom's recommendation of 10 cents then.
Okay, any other discussion? We have Sam Segway again from the public.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear, Sam. Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things actually that I need to bring to your attention, you know, you're trying to charge us this wharfage fee, you're trying to charge us this 2.5%, you're trying to charge us this 15%. But you know, you got to realize, and I'm pretty sure you guys are not aware of this, but some of the fishermen have actually had your lessees from the end of the pier come down to their boat and try to charge us 35 cents a pound for the crab that was sold off the dock that was not being unloaded through their hoist. So in this situation, I really think you need to get your fees straight. You need to figure out who can charge us these fees and who cannot charge us these fees. Because I don't see my business or anybody else's business profiting or at least attempting to be profitable when we have to pay you 2.5% and then we have to pay the lessees 35 cents a pound for seafood that does not go through their hoist, which is something that we've had to deal with this year and at the end of last year. So, like I said, I don't know if this was brought to your attention yet, but it's now been brought to your attention. So things really need to get fixed if fees are going to be getting charged. Thank you.
So that sounds like a problem for operations to look into. So we have a motion and a second on the table, and
so Nancy, can Melanie please read the motion so that we all know what the final motion is that Tom's making?
Commissioner Crawley, I'll do that.
Thank you.
So on the resolution, it would read, and I'm asking we change it to April 1st now, based on all the input. Effective April 1st, 2022, the district shall charge a wharfage fee. Oh, excuse me. Effective April 1st, 2022, and for 6-month test period, the district shall charge a wharfage fee in the amount of 0.0025 is what we were saying?
Yeah.
Nope, 0.10
0.10.
per pound of gross weight of fin fish, shellfish being loaded onto or loaded off a vessel. So again, effective April 1st, 2022, and for a 6-month test period, the district shall charge a wharfage fee in the amount of 0.10 per pound of gross weight of fin fish and shellfish being loaded onto or loaded off a vessel. And
Well,
you'd
the
be approving
motion-
this resolution.
So Jim, why are you proposing another month? I mean, it's just, you know, it keeps it being extended and extended and extended, and it's mid-February. So I don't understand. I mean, the
We
emotion
could do it,
was,
we could leave it as March 1st also. We can
I
make that
would.
timeline.
I mean, Tom's motion was for March 1st at 10 cents.
Okay.
So, and that's
So
what
effect-
Bill seconded it. And that, I mean,
Okay,
I
effective
think
March-
that's what we should do. And I'll call for the question.
So effective March 1st, 2022, and for 6 months test period, the district shall charge a wharfage fee in the amount of $0.10 per pound of gross weight of fin fish and shellfish.
We have the motion, the defined motion, the second, and a call for the question. Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke, Commissioner Zemke, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Karali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Aye.
Was that an aye?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Going to now move on to item number 13, public hoist user fee. Mr. Pruitt.
President Ryring, I think there was a second part to that motion. I don't, Jim, did you want to skip that where you're
And
directing the,
further direct staff to
Right.
publish notice in a newspaper. Yeah. So shall I just read that? Or do we need
right,
to
I think
vote
it
on
would be
that?
another motion under that same agenda item to amend the ordinance code to reflect that language.
All right, I'll move to direct staff to publish notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days, a proposed amendment to ordinance code section 3.10.160 to be considered at the March 16, 2022 district board meeting. Hold on here. I'm sorry. Jim, does this mean that we are not going to actually adopt the ordinance until our March meeting?
Yeah, we have to publish it in the paper for after our board adopts it or approves it, we have to publish it in the paper for 20 days and bring it back to the board for final approval. And the ordinance is, we're just eliminating the language that requires immediate payment.
Okay, so that's why you were thinking April, because then we would have adopted the ordinance.
Right.
All right.
So the March.
We're
So
gonna
the
move-
motion would be adopt resolution number 2022-02 as amended, a resolution of the board of the San Mateo County Harbor District to establish a wharfage fee. And further direct staff to publish a notice in a newspaper of general circulation within the district for not less than 20 days, a proposed amendment to ordinance code section 310-160 to be considered at the March 16th, 2022 district board meeting.
Got it. So do I have a second for that motion?
I'll
I'll second
second.
that. Okay.
Was that Commissioner Zemke or Commissioner Chang Karali?
I think I seconded it
Okay.
first.
Roll call, Melanie?
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush. Commissioner Mathush, I think you're muted.
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Karali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring.
Aye. Thank you, Melanie. That motion passes. And now we're going to move to number 13, public hoist user fee. Mr. Pruitt.
Good afternoon. Once again, item 13 concerns a potential increase in the fee charged for the use of the public hoist. This discussion item does not concern discuss, or affect the board's decision on January 19, 2022 to restrict the use of the hoist equipment to supplies or equipment and supplies only. And that should be December and January. The board made that decision. In fiscal year 2021, it cost the district $6,900 in maintenance fees and $2,225 in staff time to maintain the public hoist, while only collecting $2,031 in hoist fees. The fee currently being charged to use the hoist is $46 an hour. It's important to note the hoist underwent significant repairs in 2021, which added to the operating cost. A more realistic annual cost to maintain the hoist is $3,500 a year, with $1,500 per year for staff time, totaling $5,000. Even considering the reduced operating costs and staff time, the current fees do not cover the cost to properly maintain and ensure the safety of the public hoist. If the board does decide to cover only the maintenance costs, the district should charge $77 an hour for user fees. To cover maintenance and staff time, the district would have to charge $108 an hour. Staff recommends the district increase the fee to $85 an hour to partially cover the maintenance and staff time. A draft motion is attached to the board package for consideration and reads, whereas the California Harbor Navigation Code 6079 provides that the board shall by ordinance fix the rate of wharfage charges and other charges which are appropriate for the use of any of the facilities owned and constructed or services furnished or provided by the district. And whereas San Mateo County Ordinance Code Section 310010 provides the district shall establish rates and fees for the use of facilities on the district and for services performed by the district. This schedule of rates and fees will be adopted by resolution of the Board of Harbor Commissioners. It shall be the responsibility of the employees of the district or their agents to collect said fees and charges. Now therefore be it resolved that the San Mateo County Harbor District, effective March 1st, 2022, the district shall charge, the board needs to decide if they want to charge per hour for use of the public hoist. Adopt resolution number, recommended motion is to adopt resolution 2207, a resolution of the board for the San Mateo County Harbor District adopting a fill in the blank per hour fee for use of the public hoist at Pillar Point Harbor, and authorize the general manager to amend the district's rates and fees to reflect this change. Pending any questions, that's my staff report.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Chang Crowley, you have your hand up.
Thank you. So quick question, Jim.
Yes.
Again, referring back to the last meeting that we had, I'd like to capture exactly what it is that the hoist is allowed to be used for. And that's actually in our minutes that we just approved today, which is to restrict the hoist to supplies and equipment only, so that there's no confusion, and that's what they're being charged for, is to use the hoist for supplies and equipment only. And again, that's in the minutes that we approved today. So I'm reading that off of motion 4 from the minutes that we approved. Is that possible?
It's possible we can add another whereas to the resolution and simply state, whereas the public hoist is restricted to equipment and supplies only. And that would reflect the December decision by the board to, or not December decision, was it?
January, I think.
Yeah,
January.
December, the December meeting where they decided to restrict it, and the January meeting where they confirmed it. And just add another whereas in between the two whereases that's in the staff report.
I would make the motion to approve that with that amended language in there, just so that it's very clear what that public hoist is supposed to be used for.
I'm going to read that then. The motion would be to adopt resolution number 22-07, a resolution of the Board of the San Mateo County Harbor District adopting we don't have a fee yet, per hour fee for use of the public hoist at Pillar Point Harbor, a hoist which is limited to equipment and supplies only, and authorize the general manager to amend the district rates and fees to reflect this change. And I still need
President Reiering, do you want it? Do you want that line in your motion, or do you want that line in the resolution?
Well, I'm proposing both, because the motion and the resolution can be used and have the same language, and that's after we adopt whatever fee we end up adopting. I mean, I just want to make it very clear what this hoist is supposed to be used for, and maybe that'll guide us what fee we're going to be looking at per hour.
We can add to the resolution, whereas this hoist, the public hoist is limited to equipment and supplies only. And then by approving the resolution, you already approved that statement. And if we do that, or if the board elects to do that, the motion would be adopt resolution number 2207 as amended, a resolution of the Board of San Mateo Harbor District, et cetera, et cetera.
Great. Commissioner Matoush, you have your hand up?
Yes, I'd like to go for the $85 an hour to be the fill in the blank for 2207. And on a personal level, I have to say that, as I've said before, it's a little hard to limit it to just equipment and supplies when numerous people are telling us that they can't take their catch to the end of the pier. But anyway, let's drop that for now and just say fill in the blank at $85.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Right, to include the amended language. So can you just read the whole thing, Jim, with the price as well?
Recommended motion as amended by the board. Yes, now. Adopt resolution number 2207 as amended. A resolution of the Board of San Mateo County Harbor District adopting a $85 per hour fee for the use of the public hoist at Pillar Point Harbor and authorize the general manager to amend the district's rates and fees to reflect this change. And the amended motion would be whereas, our resolution would include, whereas the public hoist is restricted to equipment and supplies only.
We need a second. I think did I second that? I'll second that.
If there's no other discussion, Melanie, roll call.
Who made the motion?
Tom.
Okay, that's
I
Tom's
believe,
motion.
Commissioner Zemke seconded though.
I second his amendment.
Sorry. Okay, I'll take back my second.
Okay. You want roll call? Yes. Commissioner Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
The motion carries. Item number 14, mid-year budget review. Julie Van Hoff.
Good afternoon, Commissioner or President Ryring, commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so here's a summary of what the district's financial position is after the first 6 months of the fiscal year, which ended on December 31st, 2021. The operating revenue is tracking on budget with approximately 50%. The budget anticipated a $4.4 million income, and currently we have $2.2 million. The non-operating revenues are about 60% of budget, and usually property taxes are distributed to the district in the first half of the year at a greater rate than the second half of the fiscal year. Last year, for example, we were at 47%, and we expect the other 40% to be distributed by June 30th. Salaries, wages, and benefits are tracking slightly below budget due to vacancies during the year. We are currently recruiting for the 4 vacancies that we currently have and expect that salaries, wages, and benefits will track to budget for the second half of the year. The non-personnel expenditures of $1.4 million are about 41% of the budgeted expenditures of $3.5 million. Legal fees, repairs and maintenance costs, travel, training are all tracking below budget, but we are expected to catch up. The big variance in this budget right now is the capital expenditures, which are only 8% of the budget of $9.8 million. If by June 30th, we purchase the admin building and we complete the West Trail Shoreline project, that will be a cost of approximately $6.3 million. So, but this capital expenditure balance moves across fiscal years. So if, for instance, it went past June 30th, then we would still have these capital expenditures available for purchase in future fiscal years. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer questions, but in summary, we are tracking on budget. And we are getting some capital projects complete. Thank you.
This looks great, Julie. Thank you very much. Are there any
You're welcome.
comments from the board or questions?
I
Thank
think
you for-
regarding the building, isn't that extremely close to closing?
Yes,
I'll ask
Jim.
Jim, yeah.
Very, very close. We should be closing by the end of this week or next week. We just got the escrow documents.
Excellent. And we know the West Trail is going on because you can't get out there now.
Right. All right, well, thank you very much, Julie. We're
Welcome.
good. What?
I said you're welcome.
We're going to move on to item number 15, ad hoc and standing committee review and assignments. This is my item, and to continue the continuity of the working groups, I'm going to be keeping the committee assignments as they stood in 2021. So just to go over them, they are standing committees, human relations, that's myself and Commissioner Chang Corrali. Oyster Point Liaison Committee is Commissioner Zemke and Commissioners Zemke and Matoush. Finance Committee, Commissioners Chang Corrali and Commissioner Matoush. The Ad Hoc Committee of Income and Revenue is myself and Commissioner Chang Corrali. Dredge Sediment, Commissioner Matoush and Commissioner Zemke. Communications and outreach. I don't know, actually, we didn't use that committee at all last year. It is ad hoc, so I guess I'll keep it for now. Communications and outreach, that's myself and Commissioner Zemke. Water quality and TMDL is myself and Commissioner Matoush. And that's it. Item number 16, authorize public meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E. I think the recommended motion is to adopt resolution number 22-04, reconsidering the circumstances of the COVID-19 state of emergency and making findings to authorize meetings to be held via teleconferencing pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E. Unless there's any discussion, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
Second, Commissioner Matoush, thank you. Roll call, Melanie.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke. Commissioner Zemke, I believe you're muted.
Sorry about that. Aye.
Commissioner Matoush.
Aye.
The motion carries. And now we move on to commissioner comments. Do any of our?
President Ryrie?
Yes.
I thought I missed the discussion portion of that, but it doesn't impact what my comments are going to be if I can make some comments.
Of course, regarding item number 16.
Yeah, regarding the COVID, the COVID resolution and
Yeah.
the future with the county lifting the mask mandate and the state lifting it and the federal government lifting it for vaccinated individuals, the opportunity to return to in-person meetings in March is available to the board if the board so desires. Vaccinated personnel, people who still want to attend, would have to wear a mask. And the public will be able to attend via Zoom because the district did install a Zoom room, which live Zoom participation will be available. If we do it drop the COVID resolution for the March meeting, we'd have to follow the Brown Act for the commissioners, but the public could still, and staff could still participate remotely if so desired, but the board would be present. If a board member were to want to participate by Zoom under the Brown Act, we'd have to advertise that and make it available to the public. So it's up to the board on if they want to move forward in March to have in-person meetings, or if they want to continue down the track of Zoom meetings for now based on the current COVID statuses.
Okay. What does the board feel about this?
I'd be comfortable with continuing with the current Zoom meetings and making sure that we don't have another variant or anything else that comes up. So at this point in time, I'm a Zoom person.
I guess just to make a comment, I would hope to get back to get into in-person meetings at some point, but I don't disagree with continuing with Zoom at this point.
So this is something we can kind of consider month by month, it sounds like, Jim.
Yes.
We have been looking at this every month for the past couple of years, so.
The only difference at this point is they lift the mask mandate. So I wanted to bring it up to the board that the Zoom room is ready to go and available if the board so desires to hold in-person meetings. If the board wants to continue with the resolution as approved, there's no action required for the board at either way, just direction to staff.
Okay. Well, we've had 2 commissioners comment that they prefer for March at least to continue with the Zoom platform. Commissioner Lorenz, what's your feeling on this?
I think we should continue with Zoom conferencing. The recommendations made by the county and by the state, they reflect the compromise between what epidemiologists think should be done and the political issues at the time. So I don't think we have to concern ourselves with any of the political stuff. And let's just stick with what the scientists are saying.
Okay, sounds well. That's a majority of the board right there. Commissioner Chankrali, you agree?
I do, but I also agree with what Bill was saying. At some point, I would like to go back in person, but yes, for now, let's just stick with, the Zooms.
Okay, so Jim, you have.
Thank you.
You have direction. Thank you, everybody. We're going to move on now to commissioner comments. Do any of our commissioners have anything they'd like to report out?
Wait, so Nancy, there is a member of the public with his hand up, probably for that last item.
Okay, that just appeared for me. Sam Segway?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, yeah, I would like to actually thank you guys for this Zoom meeting. Being a fisherman, we typically are working, between 1 and 5 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. So if we can continue Zoom meetings in the future, I think it would be a better platform. So that way the fishermen who are working, who can't come off the water or come out of the harbor, to get to a meeting in person, this would really help us voice our opinions a lot. Thank you.
It is true that our attendees have grown exponentially since we have been meeting on the Zoom platform. So when we do return in person, I hope we will continue to have a hybrid option available. It's so much more, we're a very big county, and it's even been hard for me as a board member occasionally when we were meeting in person to make it out to the coast. If there's an accident on Highway 92, all bets are off. So, all right, I think we're moving on to commissioner comments. And no
Oh,
commissioner comments?
Oh, Nancy?
Then, yes.
Yeah, I would just say, I know that's been a challenge for all of us as we've worked our way through the all the issues on wharfage fees and wholesale selling and buying. And I just want to say thanks to our general manager, Mr. Pruitt, for helping us with all that and bearing with us during the process.
Mhm. Yeah, true. Commissioner Matoush.
One of the things that just thrilled me beyond belief is driving by the Half Moon Bay Airport and seeing no dirt, no cyclone fences, no tarps, no weeds growing up through some monstrous 2 to 3 foot pile of dirt. And that's just a sign of real progress for the Harbor District. I look at some of the signage that we've got as I walk around through the harbor. That's very nice to see. I don't know if when Commissioner Zemke last walked through Oyster Point, but every time I see the piles of dirt moved and things looking a little bit closer to coming together, it's very rewarding there. The fact that we're trying to hire so many people and grow our footprint is very rewarding as well.
And thank you, Tom, for that photo. We use, I don't know if you were on, had any connection problems, but we were able to use your photo of the clean dredge field where it used to be stored.
Right.
And it's also great news that we're going to get the FEMA reimbursement, because we did get criticism as a board at one point for what it was costing us to store that dredge. And now we're not only using it productively, but we're being reimbursed. So it's really good news. Commissioner Chen Corrali.
Yeah, so I just want to add that I've actually been to the West Trail and it looks completely different. Jim, it looks really great. And I'll send y'all before and after pictures, because I took pictures of this probably in February of 2021 when I walked out there, and I was just there in January, and it was night and day. It's almost like the trail has doubled. I think the project looks really good so far. So thank you to staff for just keeping this repair on track, and also to the staff for kind of helping to make sure that the public is safe as well. The other thing is that I wanted to report on, and I don't know if anyone has seen it, but KQED has this show called Check Please in the Bay Area, and Pillar Point Harbor was featured on Check Please by Cecilia Phillips, and I happened to just be at the harbor. Probably that may have been the same day I walked the West Trail, now that I think about it. And it was a really great segment that featured Dante and also Chris Tibby, Dante Madrigal and Chris Tibby. And I kind of made a little cameo appearance there just because I happened to be there. And they did a great job with our fishing industry. And they featured Jeff Clark as well. And he, went to one of the local restaurants, Old Princeton Landing. And I just, their job is to basically kind of showcase where to get good food. And it was just absolutely charming. And they took some great pictures. And so, Jim, can you let Chris and Dante know that they did a great job? Because they kind of talked about the harbor. I talked about the food and sourcing, like a lot of the restaurants that are really great, that they try to use the local catch. And so it was, if you haven't seen it, I think I sent it to you, Jim. I think I sent it to y'all, right? You and Nancy.
Yes, I received it.
Yeah. If you want to take a look at it, I don't know if can it go on our website or not? I mean, and not that it has
Only
to.
a Facebook link or a YouTube video right now, but when they go live, we probably could.
Yeah.
The PBS website.
But I thought it showcased the harbor, Pillar Point Harbor, and what we do, and the sustainable seafood sources really well. So it's worth watching.
Yeah, Dante and Chris were great representatives of the district. Really a cute video. Not sure it made me want to eat sea urchins though.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it made me want to because it looks so fresh.
Any other commissioner comments? Or future agenda items? If not, I think we're ready to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Melanie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Chancarelli,
Aye.
Commissioner Ryring,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush. Commissioner Mathush,
That darn unmute button. Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Lorenz.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Great meeting today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, everyone.